Did you know that thousands of years ago it was very common for Jews, especially in the land of Israel, to bury their dead in caves? Shalom, my friends. This is Akiva Gersh with Israel in 5, where we give you everything Israel in 5 minutes. Please like and subscribe. And if you have any questions or want to keep the conversation going, please do so below in the comments. There are many places around Israel today. You can go hiking, you can go walking, you can go visit, and you will come across a cave dug by humans into the earth thousands of years ago. And many times in those caves, you will find the remnants of burial caves of all shapes and sizes, small, tiny ones, very large ones with multiple rooms, ones for individuals, ones for families. And it shows you that despite the fact today that Jewish cemeteries look a very specific way, where the bodies are buried in the ground and there's a headstone at the end of where the body is. Back in the day, in the land of Israel, thousands of years ago, they did things very, very differently. There are many different ways of burial according to Jewish tradition and Jewish law that are absolutely okay. And again, there's many places you can go visit throughout the land of Israel today where you will see examples of caves being built, being carved out, and being used for the burial of the deceased. One of the most incredible and fascinating places to see this is a place at the beginning of the north, the beginning of the Galilee in Israel, a place called Beit She'arim. Here you will find literally a city of the dead. You will find multiple caves of all shapes and sizes, all in a row, all around each other in the same area. Now, Beit She'arim was a very famous and well-known and important city over 1,500 years ago. It was the seat of the Jewish Supreme Court for some time, the Sanhedrin, after it left Jerusalem, after Jerusalem was destroyed by the Romans, and it wandered to different places throughout the land of Israel, eventually arriving in the north and eventually going from place to place throughout the north. One of the stops was this place, Beit She'arim. Why was that? Because the head of the Sanhedrin, Rabbi Yehuda HaNasi, he lived there, he dwelled there. That was one of the places that he lived towards the end of his life. And that was the seat of the Sanhedrin, the Jewish Supreme Court. And right next to the village, we find this huge necropolis, this huge city of the dead, which was discovered in modern day times by an early Zionist farmer and guardsman and settler. And it's an incredible place to visit. You can go in and out of these caves. Some of these caves are a bit small, so you can't really go in, but you can look at them from the outside. Some of these caves are massive. And when you go in there, you feel like you're going into this alternate reality, this underworld of sorts. In some of these caves, you can see large sarcophagi, as we call them, these massive graves built out of rock, with kind of like a coffin style where the body would be placed with a very thick cover on top. Some of them are plain, some of them have simple geometric designs, and some of them are very intricately carved out and designed. And you know that those were the ones that belonged to the more wealthy members of the community there. It's an incredible thing to walk through this large cave in Beit She'arim, from room to room, seeing just remnants from thousands of years ago, these sarcophagi that have survived, right? Because they're made out of stone. Of course, there's no bones left in these sarcophagi or in these burial caves. They long ago disintegrated, but you can get a sense for the culture of what life was like back then, almost 2,000 years ago, for the Jews living in this very important city. Not all of the deceased were buried in these sarcophagi. Many were just placed in the ground in these kind of almost like carved out, not holes, kind of like a long hole where a body would be placed. Even shells. It looks like if you look in the walls of some of these rooms and some of these burial caves, you can see multiple kind of places within the wall where they would place the dead. And in any given room, you could have many bodies, deceased bodies, being placed there. Oftentimes, when the body itself disintegrated, decomposed, and you were just left with the bones would be put in an ossuary, which was kind of like a pot, like a piece of pottery, where they would collect bones, oftentimes of the same family, together. And it's an amazing thing to see, again, just to see how differently Jews were burying their dead throughout the ages. It's interesting to note in the back of one of these caves, they believe, archaeologists and historians believe, they found the grave of this rabbi who I mentioned before, Rabbi Yehuda Nasi, who was the head of the Supreme Court. He was one of the most important and influential rabbis in all of Jewish history. And at the back of the cave, you see kind of like an indentation in the ground where they believe he was buried, because he wrote that the dead or the living should not waste their money burying the dead in these very, very expensive sarcophagi that we talked about before. And rather, they should be buried simply in the ground, which is the way that Jewish custom is today. And in cemeteries today, the body is placed either directly in the ground, like in the land of Israel, or outside the land of Israel in most places, put into a very, very simple pine box with no metal fasteners or nails. Any nails would be made out of wood so that it will decompose as quickly as possible. There's an idea in the Jewish tradition that the body should decompose as quickly as possible and return to the earth, right? From dust we come and dust we go. And it's really interesting to kind of see these concepts come alive in these various Jewish cemeteries from throughout the ages. So an amazing thing you can see throughout the land of Israel. I've seen many of them myself, these burial caves scattered throughout the land, but especially in this place, Beit She'arim, you can see a magnificent example of how Jews buried their dead almost 2,000 years ago.